you mentioned the shoulder pads and the chin straps for the helmets. We're only a little more than 3 months away from the high school football season beginning for 2018.
That's all?
That's all. That's all. So just let that sink in a little bit. And, of course, a little closer to 4 months before Alabama football begins against Louisville. And speaking of which, because there is a reason for playing the OJs and money coming back from the break, because the assistants, in addition to Nick Saban, are cashing in, folks, as far as those raises pretty much across the board. And we're going to get to C.J. Watson's submitted buy or sell, which, by the way, you can always submit a buy or sell question that you want me to ask the old fullback from 1989 to 1992. But I forgot who was the one that suggested that in the second segment that Scott Cochran was underpaid.
Becky Blanton-Brown.
Becky Blanton-Brown. So you know what? Let's throw that as a buy or sell. Scott Cochran is the most underpaid staff member of Nick Saban's we'll say coaching staff.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say a strength coach that's making almost $600,000 is underpaid. I think his value is unbelievable. And I think in the soft skill side of things, he has the hardest job. But it's hard for me to say, because he doesn't have to go on the road, James. What he does is probably the most valuable aspect of it during this time.
Yes.
But the other 9 months, these other guys are having to recruit, develop, coach, maintain. So it's hard to say he's underpaid. So I'm going to say sale that he's underpaid. If he's underpaid, then several other coaches are underpaid as well. He's setting the bar. If he wasn't getting paid as one of the top guys, then I would say that. But since he's being paid as one of the top guys in his position, I think Alabama's recognizing his value.
Now that gets us into C.J. Watson's question as far as buying or selling before Nick Saban retires. Before Saban retires, Scott Cochran breaks $1 million per year.
Well, I guess if the answer to that is buy, then that means that Saban probably coached 6, 7, 8 more years. Because all it's going to take, James, is a run on coaches, okay? And what I mean by that is, who would have thought 11 years ago – I can't think it was CJ. I can't remember who it was talking about Mike Shula didn't make $1 million to like his last contract year, and now assistant coaches are making that much. So if there's a run, if somebody comes after Cochran, I think it's going to expedite that process. But if Nick Saban coaches 6 or 7 more years, it's very possible that Scott Cochran could break the $1 million mark. So I'm going to say if there's a coach out there that gets to the $1 million mark, it's going to be Scott Cochran. So if he stays here during Saban's era and Saban's era lasts up through his contract, that's a buy.
So continuing on the coaching salary topic, Saturday Down South has an updated list of the SEC coaching salaries now. On this particular article by Michael Wayne Bratton, it actually examines just the base salaries, not incentives included. So kind of like we talked about in our various shows last week, and at least what I brought up, I think on this very show, as far as Cecil Hurt's correct point about the $11 million last year only being really a one-time deal right now because of that signing bonus. So when you just factor in 2018 base pay, Jimbo Fisher is actually getting more than Nick Saban. According to Saturday Down South, that's $7.5 million for Fisher compared to $7.125 million for Nick Saban. So first off, buy or sell, Texas A&M overpaid for Jimbo Fisher.
Buy. The guy has one national title, and what else did he do at Florida? State. I mean, when you really go back and look at it, okay, let's think about this. Once Dabo got situated, what did Jimbo do once Dabo got established as a head coach? His run was immediately over, right? I mean, Fisher was a big fish in a little pond, and then when a couple more fish came to the pond, boom, it was over for Jimbo. So I think Jimbo Fisher is one of the highest paid coaches because of a national championship. You can't knock that from him, and there's only 4 in the game. But it took a special talent in Jameis Winston. And now we understand, after you see the results of what he's done since Jameis has been gone, now you understand why he kept Jameis around and was willing to fight for him because it would have exposed him as a coach. So say buy on the fact that he's overpaid.
Another thing and I'll put my best political spin job on this for Jimbo Fisher is that he, quote unquote, the air quotes for those listening on the radio out there, looked after Jameis Winston, 5 years ago at Florida State.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. He looked after him for his own benefit.
We'll just put it that way. But back to Nick Saban and another buy or sell when it comes to the coaching salary. Buy or sell Nick Saban within 4 years will be making $10 million a year.
Buy. I'm not even – if Nick Saban's still here, he'll have 2 more championships and – and $3 more million. The guy should be making that now. Okay, I mean, if think about this, if Gus Malzahn makes $7 million a year, the guy was a high school coach a little over a decade ago, and he's done nothing. No, yes, they did make it to a national championship game. Everybody gives him credit for Auburn's national championship. Auburn fans, by the way, Gus Malzahn was not the head coach when you won the national championship. That was Gene Chizik. And you had Cam Newton. Excuse me. I could go out and take any SEC school and improve their wins by 2 or 3 if I had Cam Newton as a quarterback. You give me Kentucky, and I'd be competitive and win a couple more games with Cam Newton. That guy was an unbelievable player, and Gus Malzahn gets all of his credit. Who can't call plays when you got Superman? So, yeah, he'll make more than 10. I'm sorry. That was an opportunity. You know, I think I've been listening to the game too much because they've been on this Auburn Alabama kick the last couple of days. So every chance I get to hit the Auburn guys, yeah. If you want to hear some great Auburn, Alabama banter, you need to listen to the game from 2 to 6 every day. All right, back to you, James.
All right. USA Today actually has a ranking of the all of the 130 FBS teams after the spring practices have concluded, and Martin, Alabama's not the top team in their list.
Who had this list now?
USA Today. Mm-hmm. This is on usatoday.com. Once again, a ranking of all of the 130 FBS teams following spring practice, at least who they think are the top teams from 1 through 130, and we'll buy or sell Clemson as the top team in college football following spring practice, according to usatoday.com.
Is their freshman quarterback Trevor Lawrence going to be the starter there as well? Is that what they're basing it on?
I don't know.
But now I'm gonna give Clemson a shout out. We've given you have to be even when you do this thing. When Alabama have had dominant defenses like Clemson has the potential to have. Clemson had 3 or 4 first-round draft picks, and Dabo, I heard him talking about it. Once again, it was on the game when they did the interview at the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame induction. He said, this is the first year we hadn't had a first-rounder, but we had 3 of them choose to come back and play college football. So right now, Clemson technically has 3 to 4 first-rounders on that defensive front, and when you have that type of defensive front, you have a legit shot. I mean, if it'd been somebody else, I might, sell on that, but that's fine. But at some point before the season's over, Alabama will be the number 1 team if they're not number 1 now. So
One more buy-sell for you, and Alabama and Auburn face off tomorrow on the softball diamond in a first-round SEC tournament game up at Columbia, Missouri, which, by the way, you'll like this, Martin. The host institution, Missouri, is not even in the SEC tournament this year. And so they're playing it at Missouri, but Missouri's not in it this year.
Oh, wow. You got to hate that for Missouri and the Missouri fans.
Yes.
But I think, Coach, I'm hoping that Coach can right the ship.
Buy or sell, though, Alabama beats Auburn tomorrow night up in Columbia, Missouri.
Well, of course I'm going to say buy. I mean, yes, Alabama beats Auburn every time they play, right? Until they don't. That's that. I mean, you put on your crimson-colored glasses and you go buy. So Alabama wins.